There are 2 routes from Pitland to Queensville, 3 routes from Queensville to St. Luke's, 3 routes from Pitland to Rutherford, and 1 route from Rutherford to St. Luke's. How many routes are from Pitland to St. Luke's through Queensville? So whenever they do stuff like this where you're doing like a route to somewhere, you're never like going from Pitland to Queensville back to Pitland. Like you're not doing these crazy, you're literally just going from Pitland to St. Luke's, right? So you're not backtracking at any point in time, or you'd have an infinite number of pathways to do. So what we can do, because this one is small, we could actually just count the ways that we have, right? So how many ways from Pitland to St. Luke's through Queensville? So that would be 1, that would be 2, that would be 3, that would be 4. Oh, nope, that would be 4, that would be 5, that would be 6. So there's 6 of them. And then how many routes from Pitland to St. Luke's passing through Rutherford? 1, 2, 3. Now, why the heck is this even in this lesson if all we're doing is counting pathways? We could do this in grade 7. It's in here because there are parts that make up the whole path, right? And what happens when, like, for example, when we did the wooden toy yesterday, we had 3 parts, correct? And we could take how many parts from part 1, how many parts from part 2, how many parts from part 3, multiply them, and we get the total amount of different toys, right? Well, each of these, the pathways on the top and the pathways on the bottom, are a path to get from somewhere to somewhere, but there's parts to get you there, correct? So the top here is 6. This part here from P to Q would be part 1 of their travel. How many paths are there? 2. This would be part 2 of their travel. How many pathways? 3. 2 parts, when we have 2 parts, we multiply them, and we'd get 6. So we can use the fundamental counting principle as well. So if it was like way more, having to add them, it'd be better to do it this way. Make sure your phones are away, okay? Now, Pitland to St. Luke. How many are from Pitland to Rutherford? How many paths? 3. How many paths from Rutherford to St. Luke's? 1. Multiply them, and we get 3. Now this is the hardest part. Deciding, do we multiply those 2 numbers or do we add them? 6 and 3. We're trying to find total amount of paths, right? When we do the total, what do we do with those 2 paths? We add them. We have 6 paths on the top, we have 3 paths on the bottom. That gives us 9 different paths that we could take, right? So we don't multiply them, we add them. So here's a little reminder, or, when you see or, it means to add. When you see and, it means to multiply. So let's look at example 6. The telephone numbers allocated to subscribers in a rural area consist of one of the following. The digits 3, 4, 5. So the option for this one is 3, the option for this one is 4, and the option for this one is 5. 3, 4, 5, followed by any 3 further digits. Does it say they can't repeat? Say anything about that? No, so then we assume that we can. So our options are 0 to 9, 0 to 9, 0 to 9. On the top, we put how many there are. So 3, how many options is that? 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 0 to 9. What do we do with all the parts? Multiply. So we get 1,000. Then we have the word or. So the digits 3, 4, 5 followed by any 3 further digits or. What do we do when it has or? Add. Whenever we have separate cases, we always add the cases. So or means to add the digit 2, followed by one of the digits 1 to 5, followed by 3 further digits. Does it say anything about those 3 further digits being non-repetition? No. Say 0 to 9. So we have one option, 5, 10, 10, 10. So we're going to add 5,000. 1,000 plus 5,000, how many total options? 6. So remember how I told you before that the way you know that you can repeat is it doesn't say you can't repeat? And the way you know that you can't repeat is it does say you can't repeat? Well, example 8 is the one situation where it's not going to say you can't repeat, but you can't. So let's look at it. Consider the number of distinguishable 4-letter arrangements. Distinguishable just means that you can tell the difference. It doesn't mean it has to be an actual word in the English language. So for example, if I had pool and I switched the 2 O's, I would have pool. Are those distinguishable? Could you tell the difference? No. So all distinguishable means is that they look different. You can tell the difference between them. Okay? So, and we want 4-letter arrangements in distinguishable. 4-letter arrangements means I'm only going to arrange 4 of them. And the moment I have the word arrangement, that means permutation. Why? Permutations means order matters, right? The moment you're arranging anything, you're arranging it in an order. So the order matters. So if you read the word arrangements in the question, it's telling you it's permutation. Okay? Arrangements means permutation. Okay? So, consider the number of distinguishable 4-letter arrangements that can be formed from the word English. Now, it's not going to say no repetition. It's from the word English. You have the word, so whenever it gives you a word, pretend that word is on little like pieces of paper, okay? There's an E on a piece of paper, an N, a G, an L, an I, an S, and an H on a piece of paper, right? Can we make more paper? No, we have the word English. English has 1 E, 1 N, 1 G, 1 L, 1 I, 1 S, 1 H, okay? That's what we're dealing with. So they're not going to say no repetition, because if I gave you the word pool, it has repetition, it's 2 O's, right? If I give you the word English, it has no repetition. So you have to look at the word and decide, does it have repetition or not? And you can only use what they gave you. So they gave you 1 E, 1 N, 1 G, 1 L, 1 I, 1 S, 1 H, okay? All right. So any letter can be in any position. Remember, we're only doing 4 letters. We're not doing the whole word. So sometimes they arrange the whole word. Sometimes they arrange only some of the letters. So we have 4 letters that we're arranging. But how many letters total do we have? 7. Now make sure you count it twice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because the worst thing is getting the question wrong because you counted 6 and there's 7 letters, right? We don't want that to happen. So there's no restrictions, so I can start wherever the heck I want to, right? You have to start with, if there's restrictions, you have to start with them, but there aren't any. So in the first blank, I have the letters E, N, G, L, I, S, H as options, correct? How many is that? 7. What do I have to do, though, if I'm arranging them? I have to keep one. Because, remember, we're technically not repeating, right? It's not going to be 7, 7, 7, 7, or you're actually never leaving a letter there. You're leaving a letter, and then you're picking it up and dropping in the next one. You're never making a word. You will never make a 4-letter word if you do 7, 7, 7, 7, because that means you're picking up all the letters every single time you put one down. Okay? So we have English. I'm going to keep the H here. Now I have, for this blank, the letter ENGLIS on little letter tiles, right? Those are the letter tiles I have left. I left in that spot the H. Now I have these ones left. How many is that? 6. Now I'm going to keep the E. So for the next one, I have NGLIS, which is how many? 5. Keep the L. NGIS, which is 4. Do you have to list all the outcomes below? No, but sometimes it helps people so they can visualize it. What's 7 times 6 times 5 times 4? Pardon? Thank you. You guys try B, C, and D. See how you do. B says the first letter must be an E. So it has to be an E. How many E's are in English? 1. Then I would have NGLISH left. How many is that? 6. Then I keep 1. NGLIS. 5. Keep 1. GLIS. 4. Which is 120. C says the first and last letters must be vowels. What vowels are in English? So E and I. So the first and last ones have to be vowels. Do we have to deal with the first and last ones first? Yes, because they are restrictions. So I'm going to deal with this one just because I want to. So I have the option E or I here. How many is that? 2. Do I have 2 left for this one then? No, I'm going to keep 1 here. And then I have E left here. So I have 1. Keep the E here. Now I've used up how many letters? 2. Right? So now I would have NGLISH. Have 5 left. Keep the N. GLSH. 4. So it's 40. Then D I said was tricky because it said the word must contain a G, right? So we have case 1. Or, and whenever we say or, we use plus signs. So between cases, we always have plus signs because you're not doing this case and this case. You're making a 4-letter word. If you're doing this case and this case, you actually have 2 4-letter words. Did it ask us to find 2 4-letters? No, it asked for 1. So that's why you have this case or plus sign, this case, or you have this case, or you have this case. If you say and between all of them, you now have 4 4-letter, which you can't even have. There's only 7 letters in English, right? You can't even have 2. So you have to put plus signs between. So this one is a G, has 1 option. Then I have how many letters left? 6, then 5, then 4. The next case, if G was in the second spot, I'd have a 1 here, then I'd have 6, 5, 4. Then I'd have G in the third. So I'd have 1, then 6, 5, 4. Because when they're new cases, you're starting fresh. You have all the letters back again, right? And then your fourth one, 1, 6, 5, 4. What's a quicker way to do this? Yeah. So this equals 120. And this is going to equal 120. This is going to equal 120. And that's going to equal 120, right? So we could go 120 plus 120 plus 120 plus 120, which is 480. Or we could say, hey, all 4 cases are exactly the same, just the numbers are rearranged in different orders, right? So I could just go 4 cases times 120, which is 480. All right? Okay. So what I'm going to get you to do is you're going to work on the questions in your book. And then I'm also going to give you some textbook questions. In the homework, you can do all of the homework in this book except for 14. You can cross 14 out. And then I will